Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I don't know whether anyone can hear me. Lucy, please confirm you can hear me. Hello?
I can hear you, man.
Okay, Anthony. Okay, yeah, Engineer AB, good afternoon. You can see the presenter is on the call. Hello?
I think she's no
Who
longer
is
on the
having
call.
this meeting? She's no longer on the call.
No longer on the call.
Are we not having the meeting today? I'm not seeing people. I don't know what's going on.
No, I don't know. I'm even surprised. I don't know why people are not joining anymore.
Okay, let's just wait a little and see. If there's any cancellation, they would have informed us, but I don't think there's nothing like that. All right, so please know that we are live on YouTube. In case if we want to do more conversation, we can use the chat button. Thank you so much. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Am I being heard? Hello?
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Engineer, can you hear me? Yeah, okay,
Good
Lucy.
evening.
The presenter is in. Engineer, can you hear me? Good afternoon, madam.
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Oh, sorry, good evening. Thank you for joining on time. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah,
So, I guess we should give maybe 5 minutes more to let others to join and the program chair. I just chatted him up. So, yes. But can you share from your side or you want somebody to assist?
I can share from my end. I can share my screen.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so can we, I don't know, this is 15 minutes after 5. I don't know if we can start because I'm just seeing very few people on the call. Madam, can we go ahead and start while we wait for others to join?
It's okay, Tracy. So how many minutes do I have?
I don't really have the full program of today, but usually we have 45 minutes for the presentation, 40 minutes for the presenter, while 5 minutes is for the question and the answers.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just go ahead and try to finish up before my scheduled time. Okay, thank you very much.
So let me do a safety brief. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining our March technical meeting. This is a virtual meeting. Please, if you're speaking, kindly mute. If you're not speaking, mute your mic when you are not speaking. Raise your hands to speak. In case if you have any question, use the chat button. C is for comments, while Q is for question. Ensure you can still hear the fire alarm with your handset. Please be alert and be conscious of your environment while on the meeting. In case if you're driving, please, I will advise you to be careful. Several things that is happening on the road. I will even advise you more if you can pull out of the road and park in a very safe place to join the meeting. Kindly maintain a very good sitting position to avoid backache. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll quickly share my slides. Okay, so please confirm everyone can hear me. Can I be?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll be discussing unlocking energy security, the role of natural gas in achieving grid independence. Now, when we talk about energy security, one resource stands out, that's natural gas. Natural gas is basically made up of methane, and then we have small amounts of other hydrocarbons present in it, and it could be produced alongside oil, which is called associated gas, so it could just be found alone in the reservoir. Then when we talk about energy security, we are talking about affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. So I'll go straight to my introduction. So we see that energy access is one of the most pressing challenges in not just Nigeria, but Africa at large. Now, Nigeria has the 9th largest natural gas reserve globally and the highest in Africa. So if we leverage on our gas resource, it could actually transform the energy landscape in Africa. We found out that a portion of our gas reserves remain underutilized, and this may be as a result of dilapidated infrastructure and a plethora of problems which we'll look at as we go along in this course, in this study. Now we see that, okay, natural gas offers us a unique blend of affordability, efficiency, and then lower carbon emission. So natural gas presently is being looked at as a bridge fuel for transitioning into the renewable energy era. But we know that fossil fuels are not going away anytime soon, and natural gas is actually a fossil fuel. Integrating natural gas into renewable energy resources for power provision can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It can improve efficiency, and then it can help improve our energy security, especially in remote areas, because if we think of constructing grids along long distances, we have transmission losses. So natural gas can actually serve to ensure that we have reliable power supply, even in remote areas as much as in urban areas. You can all agree with me that the issue of power supply is not just limited to remote areas, but the remote areas are worse hit. Now, Nigeria has a natural gas reserve estimated at about 206 trillion cubic feet, and we have about 37 billion barrels of oil. But currently, we produce between 1.3 and 1.5 million barrels daily. We have an installed capacity. When I'm talking about capacity now, is electricity of about 13,000 megawatts, but we struggle to deliver about 4,000 megawatts. I'm sure majority of us are used to the epileptic power supply, and we see the back and forth between the gas companies, the discos, and the gencos. Now we find out that within Nigeria, we find most power generating plants use gas fired. Then we have hydroelectricity being provided by about 14%. But energy usage is highest in residential homes. From the slide, you can see that commercial is about 30% and industrial sectors is about 15%. So little wonder why we are still an emerging economy, because for us to actually grow, we need our industrial sector using more of our gas than our residential homes. So basically residential homes, power is just for lighting, cooling, cooking, and basically small agricultural processing. Now, what are the challenges to energy security? The first one is frequent attacks on gas pipelines. Then the next is inadequate processing facilities. To the right of my screen, you could see the gas plants we have in Nigeria and the operators, the capacity, and the pipeline connections. You find out that if you look through the column on pipeline connections, we have more of our gas going to LNG to be liquefied and then going for export. So we don't really have to wonder why when we go back to our gas pricing structure, which is the next reason why we don't have, we still have a challenge with energy security. On the LNG export, we see that the gas prices are between $8 and $12 per million British thermal units. In comparison to the power sector, that's those responsible for giving us electricity in our homes, which is about $2.5 to $3. So you see why mostly the gas produced is sent for LNG export, because it gives us better economics than meeting our domestic supply obligations. Now, the industrial sector, you find out that gas is between $4 to $7. And for the commercial sector, between $3.5 to $5. This is somewhere else that policymakers need to have a good look at. So if the industrial sector, should the industrial sector actually be paying more for gas than the power sector, than our homes? In my opinion, I would say no, because the industrial sector actually, they do the manufacturing, and the cost of manufacturing cascades down to the economy. So we find out that we have high prices and all. So if we fix our gas pricing structure, it's going to do a lot to our economy and also to energy access. Now, the next challenge we have to energy security is regulatory barriers. We find out that to get approval for your gas infrastructure, whether you're having a small gas plant, you want to invest in a small gas plant or big infrastructures, you find out that the procedure to get approval is quite lengthy. And then we know that investing in gas is high capital, it's capital intensive, whether you're in pipeline storage or you want to go into hybrid power. So we also have this overlapping regulatory barriers. Now on the right part of my screen, you see the regulatory bodies, their mandates, and you also have overlapping mandates with agencies. So let us look at Federal Ministry of Petroleum, for example. They are responsible for developing petroleum policies and regulating the agencies. But you find out that upstream and midstream regulatory bodies do exactly the same job that the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources is expected to do. Now, what does this cause? It causes regulatory conflicts. So you see unclear jurisdiction leading to inefficiencies. We have bureaucratic delays. So you see that investors actually face challenges having to navigate through multiple approvals, there's duplicacy of functions, and this increases the cost of doing business. All of these are challenges to energy security. Remember, we are saying like energy security is providing affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy to the populace that will meet both today's needs and that of future generation without leaving a clear limit. Now, another challenge to energy security is limited access to green financing. So if you have to take a loan, for example, to set up a gas plant or set up a hybrid project, you find out that because it is cost intensive, capital intensive, you will need loans. But these loans are not readily available. That's the word. These loans are not readily available, and the interest rates are high. This is actually a major challenge to energy security besides the cost of investment. Now, how do we affect energy security? The first thing we will look at is gas pricing reforms. So our pricing should be cost reflective, it should be market reflective, it should be based on prices of gas in the international market. Is the government going to set in subsidies and tax regimes to promote renewable energy? Yes, but it should be cost reflective so that producers of natural gas will meet their domestic supply obligations rather than pay fines for not meeting it. Now, we can also introduce a dual, when I say we, I mean policymakers generally, can introduce dual pricing mechanisms such that the rates for electricity or converting gas to power, if you're buying gas for the reason of converting it to power, is going to be cheaper. So it's going to be subsidized. And more subsidies will be given if you're using that in remote locations. Then there are targeted subsidies for hybrid projects. So you can see tax breaks on hybrid power systems and all to help improve energy security. The next thing is to strengthen institutional capacity. So we have the regulators who most of the time are not as knowledgeable as those in the field. So it leads to what we call regulatory capture. So you find out that the regulatory bodies most times may just be interested in lining their pockets. So if the regulatory bodies are properly trained and they have the necessary resource to go about their job, we'll find out that it will be easier for investors in the gas to power market to actually do the right thing. Then we could also fast track EIA, that's environmental impact assessments for hybrid projects, integrating natural gas and renewables. Then another way to enhance energy security is to secure long-term gas supply contracts. So when, for example, LNG Bonny has natural gas, they already have, let's say, a power station in Efurun, for example, that is an off-taker. So they have nothing to worry about, like, oh, our gas will be stranded. So you secure long-term gas supply contracts, and there should be a centralized platform for processing license. So I should be able to walk into DPR and then get my license and not bother about other agencies asking for the same thing I have got from DPR. Now, aligning regulations across different agencies to streamline approval processes. Now, we also have financial support mechanisms. Since gas to power is really expensive, access to climate funds, green bonds, concessional loans, all of this could reduce capital costs. You could have the public-private partnership, and then you have government-backed guarantees in the independent power project, so that you know when funds are invested in gas to power, the risk has been subsidized. Then you also have offering capital grants or subsidies for gas turbines and components of renewable energy system. We could also expand our gas infrastructure. So we could construct small gas hubs in different regions to capture stranded gas. So for example, let's say somewhere in Akwa Ibom State, you could have a gas plant collecting gas and then sending it to remote areas for electrification purposes. These LNG hubs, from these LNG hubs, instead of transporting gas via in liquefied form, you can transport via pipelines, and or they can be transported in compressed natural form, like in CNG trucks for remote distributions. Then another thing is to invest in storage facilities, underground storage, owning the gas, something like a tank farm. You have gas storage facilities, so the FPSO, floating the storage units and all of that would be good to invest in. But there are challenges to extraction of gas. So you could find methane leaks, you could find gas leaks during extraction and transportation processes. But this can actually be, hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so looks like my screen share was disabled, so I'll actually reshare the screen. Just give me a moment. Oh, the host, could you please permit me to share my screen?
Yes, yes, ma. Sorry about that. I think
Okay.
it was network.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, so let me quickly rush back to why. Okay, so we could expand gas infrastructure and then invest in storage facilities. So I was talking about having gas leaks and all of that. So to avoid that, we could actually have leak detection, and then we could upgrade our pipelines. Now, what are the benefits of integrating natural gas into power generation? We have lower operational costs. We have a high return on investment if you compare it to other electricity generation techniques and then or the traditional methods. And we have reduced greenhouse gas emission. Remember that although natural gas is a fossil fuel, it emits less CO2, methane, and NOx, that's nitrogen oxide, than the other fossil fuels. Now, I want us to look at a case study. For this case study, we're looking at a facility in the Niger Delta region, and they have about 6,000 kilowatts daily demand. Now, this case study, let's say we are talking about place Y, for example, their energy consumption is 600 kilowatts, and we are going to design a system made up of CNG generators, solar PV, battery storage, and control systems. How is this different from other remote locations power plants? If we are using gas rather than diesel, you know, diesel has already been proven to be more expensive. So if we switch that to using generators, what do we get? Now, the schematic on my right-hand side just shows what the system is going to look like. So electric load is just basically the power that is going into the system. CMNS 130 is a representation of the gas generators, 100 kVA, 30 kVA generators. The solar panel, that's the PV, and then the batteries. So for this case study, I used a software called Homer to actually do the simulation, and the energy dispatch strategy. What I mean by energy dispatch strategy is like, okay, how am I going to give light or give power to this remote institution, as the case may be. So in this design, first I'm giving them power from solar. And then when the sun is down, the next thing it goes to the battery storage. And then afterwards, if there's still need for extra power supply due to the intermittency in power delivery using renewables, then we can switch to the gas power generator. Because of the time we have, I'll not go into the details of this design. Now, for the economics of this design, we are going to look at the net present cost, levelized cost of electricity, internal rate of return, and payback period. Why am I showing this case study? The reason is to show to you that gas to power is actually cheaper, is more economically viable than diesel to power. Remember, what we are trying to do is to secure, to have energy security, both in rural and urban centers. Now, what does net present cost do in economics? It tells us the cost of a system, the total cost of a system. Now, when you're making a decision based on net present cost, most times if you have a plethora, let's say 5 or 6 cases, 6 investment proposals, usually people choose the one with the lowest net present cost. But net present cost is not an ideal economic metric to choose an investment by, because it doesn't give us time value of money and all of that. So for this particular project, we are going to use levelized cost of electricity. Now, what does that mean? So it's going to take the whole cost of the system, the whole cost of building the system, divided by the power generated from that system. So for example, if it costs me $10,000 to build a system and I generate 10,000 kilowatts of electricity, so that means it's just costing me $1 per kilowatt hour. So that's where levelized cost of electricity comes in. Internal rate of return measures the discount rate at which net present value is equal to 0. So my internal rate of return, when I check my cost of capital, for example, cost of capital, I mean, if I go to the bank to borrow money, they are going to tell me, for example, AB, you have a 15% or a 20% interest rate. Now, how much will it cost me to develop? How much can I develop this project for at that interest rate that my net present value will be 0? Am I going to make profit? So internal rate of return will tell me what is the minimum, the maximum value I can collect from my bank, and then I will still make profit. Payback period is easy to understand. So it just tells me how long it will take to recover my investment. Okay, so the next slide is a bit small, but please oblige me, just train a little. Now, for this case study, I simulated 6 different systems. You find out for the first system, I called it combination 1. It has a configuration of both battery, converters, and generators, and it costs about 401 million to get that system in place. Now, the cost of electricity per kilowatt hour, this analysis is done in Nigerian Naira, is about 212 Naira. And this is in line with what Band A customers are paying, I think, currently. So we see the combination 2, you find out that the cost is 453, that's the net present cost is 453 million. And then combination 3, 549 million. So if we go on, you see that the cost of these systems keep increasing. Now, this is a chart showing all of the systems. The blue line shows the net present cost. It's the same thing as the former charts I showed to you, but the difference is that this time I presented it rather than in a tabular form, in a chart. So you find out that the net present cost for combination 1 is about 400 million, while for combination 6, is about 1,400. So we find, I'll call it 1,400. You find out that C1 is preferable because of the low NPC, the low net present cost. So we're going to compare the base case system that's providing power for this remote institute using diesel generator and then providing power using gas generator and renewables. Now the initial cost of the base case system is 2.3 billion. Now that's the net present cost, sorry, that's the total cost of the system. But you find out that the initial capital cost is 18 million. So you don't have to wonder why people would rather buy a diesel generator than invest in a renewable energy system. So you see the discrepancy in price here, 18 million initial capital compared to 234 million. So this is where policy comes in. This is where public-private partnership comes in. This is where tax reforms and all of that come in. So to get people to invest in gas infrastructure, in gas to power, we have to make access to green funding available. So we also, if we go down, we see the O&M cost, operation and maintenance. We find out that for the base case, when you use a diesel generator, it's about 64 million per year in comparison to when you use the renewable energy system, because it has minimal maintenance. You have about 5.8 million naira. The levelized cost of electricity, that's where I want our focus to be. You see that we spend less in the long run when we invest in a renewable energy system. So gas to power is actually key for Nigeria to move into energy security. Are we going to let our fossil fuel life follow because the rest of the world is screaming renewable? The answer is no. Is there a potential for renewable energy to help us attain stable power supply? The answer is yes. So what is the request? We should actually manage our resources in such a manner that it benefits the common man and then it boosts our economic output. I'll go back to the slide on the cost of power. So that is it here. So if we have to use renewable energy in conjunction with gas to improve our electricity access, to improve our energy security, this figure here, $8 to $12 for LNG exports, has to be reflective in our power sector. So we have to make our gas much more, we have to make domestic supply obligation much more interesting to investors in the electricity sector. Okay, so now I also conducted a sensitivity analysis. So how does discount rates and rate of inflation and probably price of gas affect the cost of electricity using gas generators? We'll find out that as our discount rate increases, our inflation rate increases, so does the cost of energy. So we see that policy has to be uniform across board. So if the banks are giving us single-digit interest loans, it's still going to roll back into our economy, and then it will have this rollover effect. So the summary of our case study, we see that using renewable energy system enhances power reliability by 30%, reduces fuel consumption by about 25%. So I already stated that natural gas hybrid costs about $220 in comparison to generating power using diesel generators, which is about 1,000 naira per kilowatt hour. IRR, that's internal rate of return, is between 12 and 18%. And the payback period for this investment. So although we spent over, we may spend over 4 400 million, 200 million naira, we see that in 6 years, this money will be returned if electricity is being charged at this rate. So, okay, let me move over. Operating cost rises significantly. That's in the sensitivity analysis, significantly under high inflation scenarios. But gas hybrids also it remains cost effective due to the price of gas in comparison, cheaper price of gas in comparison to diesel. We also notice that the gas to power hybrids reduces emission rates by about 30%, and reduces NOx and SOx, that's sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide, by about 50%. And utilizing natural gas can cut our annual flaring by up to 20 million tons, which is in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. So in conclusion, I would say successful adoption of hybrid systems require meticulous planning and coordination amongst energy providers, policymakers, and technology developers. These systems are dependable, they are cost-effective, they are environmentally friendly in comparison to traditional power systems. So as we, a nation, transits to sustainable energy, natural-based hybrid system will play a crucial role in meeting our electricity or energy demand, and it will also minimize environmental impact. It is essential that we all work together to ensure successful implementation both of policies and integration of hybrid system into the country's energy infrastructure. Gas to power remains key in meeting the energy demand of the nation. Thank you. I'll take questions.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you for wonderful presentation. So please, if you have any question, you can kindly drop on the chat box or raise your hand and we'll let you speak and ask. So, okay. So it means we all understood the lecture very well. So since we do not have any question, I would like to welcome our dear and high chairperson, Madam Ofont, for closing remark.
Okay, sorry, please, I have a question. Oh, my network is just somehow.
Okay, go ahead with your question, ma'am.
Okay. First of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the insightful lecture. Actually, you talked about using natural gas for electricity generation, but I want to ask, you made mention of compressed natural gas at some point, and I see some people using it for vehicles. So
I can't hear you. You have to speak up.
I said,
hello, Ifoma. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, ma'am. So I was saying the use of compressed natural gas for vehicles. I know you talked about electricity generation, but I just wanted to ask because somebody was saying that it's not really safe, most especially with the weather that we have over here in Nigeria. So I wanted to ask, how safe and reliable is it for vehicles?
Okay, so CNG is flammable, and that's where a lot of the challenge comes from. Besides the flammability, you know, when gas is compressed, as you move, you find out that the molecules of the gas keep hitting the sides of the containers and there will be expansion. Now, the challenge is in the construction of those cylinders. Ifoma, can you hear me? So the challenge is in the construction of those cylinders. So because this is where the regulation comes to play, the regulatory bodies. So if we are moving from gas to power, we are using gas now to power our vehicles. Are the regulatory agencies equipped enough to look at the welders, for example? Is the thickness of the material you're using for your gas cylinder okay? So those are the checks and balances we need to put in place. Now, if they get the thickness right, running your car on gas is a fantastic idea. Now, a couple of months ago, there were some incidences or accidents where we had explosions in vehicles, and the government said, please go to government registered dealers to have your cars converted. So that tells you one thing: we still have a problem with our regulators. Nigeria is large, and if you have to have all of us convert our vehicles into CNG, the regulators have to be on their toes. For example, in Warri alone, I have not counted, but by rough estimate, we should have over 2,000 cars. How many regulators are there to monitor the conversion of these vehicles into CNG? So you understand why people are reluctant to move from fuel. When I say fuel, I mean petrol, to gas. Since they cannot regulate the artisans themselves, everybody will stick to what he knows best. For gas to power for our vehicles is a thumbs up. Our major challenge still remains regulation. Thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Thank you very much, ma.
Okay, thank you, ma. So the D&I chair is no longer on the call. So Madam Tracy, please, ma, can you take the closing remark for us?
There's another question on the chat box.
Yeah,
Yes,
I just saw another question on the chat box. It says, how do we get power grid generation to very remote areas? Now, what can happen is public-private partnership. So if you know a remote location which needs, which you think would need, what is it called? The solar panels and gas running it. What you need to do is go to the rural electrification agency. They are the ones in charge of electrifying remote regions. So what you will do is you put your proposal on the table. They can send it to Bank of Industry, for example. In Bank of Industry, there are loans available to people who want to invest in gas to power in remote locations. So you have someone subsidizing your cost. So first of all, you find the area. Next, you get the power demand for the area. So you're going to do like an energy audit, so you know what their electricity demand is. The next thing you'll do after knowing their electricity demand is find the renewable energy potential of that area. So you could meet my mind is going to NESDRA, not NESDRA. There is an agency, it was at the tip of my tongue, where you could get the energy potential of the area. So you meet that agency, and then they will give you the energy, the renewable energy potential of the area. Then you make the decision whether you're investing in solar, you're investing in wind, or you're investing in hydro alongside gas, because you can't use only gas. If I go back to my slides, you find out that when you use only gas, the cost of power is really high. That's where renewable energy comes in. Remember, our energy security is about providing power cheaply, that is affordable, reliable, and sustainable. So gas generator, CNG alone, is not going to be sustainable, it's not going to be affordable. So you use CNG alongside the renewable energy available in that area. So the renewable energy potential of Efuru, for example, is different from that of Warri, is different from that of Asaba. So to get to a remote location, first of all, you have to get the renewable energy potential of that area, get their electricity demand, and then you move over to rural electrification agency. They will link you up with Bank of Industry, and then you can provide power for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Mrs. Tracy, are you still on the call, ma? Okay. Lucy, can you please take the closing remark?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you very much, ma. Engineer, for this insightful lecture. Thank you very, very much for taking out time to educate us on the use of natural gas for power generation. And also, I want to thank everybody that joined the program. Thank you for joining, and I hope you learned one or two things from this lecture. And we also want to appeal to you to please send your slide across to us, please, because we actually need it for maybe those that were not able to join due to one or two things. So you can still get it across to them, because this is a very important lecture that we all hope to actually participate in. So thank you very much, and do have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day too.
Okay, please, before we go, thank you so much, our amazing presenter. Thank you everyone for joining. At this point, we want to, so please, can you turn on your camera for a group photo? Please, I want everyone to turn on camera. I'm just seeing only myself. Oh. Hello, everyone. Please, yeah, that's fine. Please, can we thumbs up? Okay, I'm taking again. All right, thank you so much.
All right, bye.
I'm done. Yeah, bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.